So the first thing I need to say as we start this video off, my friends, is that this is actually a reposting of a video I did the other day because unfortunately there were some major rendering issues and audio issues at the very end. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, and the best thing to do is to pull that video and bring you, as I said, another version today. And having said that, I receive messages on a weekly basis asking me to continue the series at the channel where I revisit a handful of builds I'm currently using. Therefore, today I'm going to be highlighting a Heartbreaker build, a Negotiators build, and 3 Pestilence builds as well. Now, we will leave timestamps in the video description, that way you can bounce in between the builds anytime you want. That is going to do it for this introduction, my friends. I do once again apologize for the screw up. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I will see you in the next one. Alright, so with that being said, let's get into the build breakdown, starting with the specialization. You can see we're using Technician, and I'm doing that for 2 main reasons. First of all, this gives you access to the linked laser pointer, and when you equip that to any long-barreled weapon, you are automatically going to pulse every single enemy you target. And this is also going to give you access to the Artificer Hive, which is going to help increase your shield efficiency and duration. Now always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, you need to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now it's important to mention that in order to have access to the linked laser pointer, you need to have rifles activated in your weapon skill tree as well. So make sure you have rifles activated. After that, it's going to be your primary weapon, which is an assault rifle, and your secondary weapon, which is a shotgun. So as you can see, my primary weapon is the Lexington. This is at expertise level 7. I'm in the process of leveling this thing up. And this has the talent flatline, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. And after 4 kills, it applies pulse to the next enemy you hit. Now once again, remember, we are using the linked laser pointer on this weapon as well as on our secondary, which means every single enemy we target is automatically going to be pulsed, so we don't have to worry about that whole 4 kills thing. Now, as far as my secondary is concerned, I'm using the Rock and Roll Shotgun. That is a PvP exclusive, but you can also get it from named caches. And in the meantime, if you don't have it, you could use a Stack Broker, you could use an ACS-12. That will totally get the job done. Now, moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 2 unit alloys and 4 Heartbreaker, which is what we're starting with. Now, we're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% assault rifle and LMG damage, 3 pieces 15% weapon handling, and 4 pieces Heartstopper. Headshots apply pulse for 5 seconds, but once again remember, because of that linked laser pointer, we are pulsing every single enemy we target. Weapon hits on pulsed enemies adds a stack of 1% bonus armor and 1.1% weapon damage up to a max of 50. However, because we are wearing the Heartbreaker body armor, we have access to the Talent Max BPM. And as you can see, that is going to increase the max stacks of Heartstopper from 50 to 100. Next, we have the holster, first of 2 pieces of unit alloys. Now, you have a few options here. Now, you can see I happen to be using a double crit unit alloys holster. However, if you want to use the salvo, try that because that's going to give you an additional 5% rate of fire increase. And once again, remember, as I mentioned in every build breakdown, this is just a template. Take your time, make a build your own, try out different variations, and just stick with the one you like using. Alright, next we have the knee pads. That is the 3rd piece of Heartbreaker. Right after that, we have the gloves, which is the 2nd piece of unit alloys. I'm going to show you another variation in a moment. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. That is the 4th and final piece of the Heartbreaker gear set. And because we're wearing a Heartbreaker bag, we have access to the Talent Cold, and that is going to increase the bonus armor gain per stack of Heartstopper from 1% to 2%. Now, another variation I'd like to highlight really quick is the one you're looking at on screen, and for the record, this is what I'm going to be using in the gameplay footage you will see at the end of the video. Now, for this version of the build, I've done the following. I've switched the holster to a piece of Grupo. That is going to give us an extra 13% crit hit damage bonus. And I've switched the gloves to the Overdogs. These are just one of my favorite exotics to use in so many different builds. They have the talent weakest link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat, as per the tier hierarchy. Finally, my friends, it takes us to the last build I'm going to highlight in today's video, and we are using 3 Heartbreaker, 2 unit alloys, and the Ninja Bike backpack. Now, most of you know exactly how this thing works, but if you don't, you can see it has the talent Resourceful, slots in with any equipped gear set and or brand set item to fulfill a requirement towards unlocking a gear set's bonus. Now that simply means, even though we only have 3 pieces of the Heartbreaker gear set equipped, we do get that 4-piece bonus, which is exactly what we're targeting. And as we make our way down to the holster and the knee pads, they are the 2 pieces of unit alloys, but again, because of the Ninja Bike, we get that 3rd brand set bonus as well, which is that 50% magazine size, and with the Lexington, that's pretty damn great to have. As far as the skills are concerned, for every build I showed you, I'm using the Crusader Shield and the Artificer Hive. Last but not least, I want to mention in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the reason for that is I want to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Bury our dead and move the supplies you recovered back to the bridge. We'll find Danvers and make him pay for this. There's more cleaner activity in Dumbo. I'll check in with scouts and call if we find anything.
Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the details, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out. And if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. Now, starting with the specialization, we're using Gunner. Doing that for the typical reasons. You get that extra armor on kill, a reload speed increase. It also gives you access to the Banshee Pulse. You get some extra rate of fire as well. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, you want to have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. And I say that because a lot of players out there, including myself, we use the same template for different builds. And when you forget to switch those weapons in that skill tree, you're leaving 15% weapon damage on the table, and you do not want to make that mistake. I hear from so many players out there who forget to switch it up, and again, it just sucks, so please pay attention to that detail. Now, as you can see on screen, both my primary and secondary weapons are assault rifles. That is not how I'm going to roll into the gameplay, but I just want to highlight that you can use any assault rifle you want. It's totally up to you. I mean, I've been getting messages from players saying they're using the new named assault rifle First Bloom. I've been hearing from people saying they finally got a Lexington. They're using that nonstop, and other players still use St. Elmo's on a daily basis. So again, always remember, this is just a template. You want to take your time and make a build your own, and I will talk about how to farm for those weapons I just mentioned at the very end of the video. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 4 Negotiators, 1 Fenris, and the Coyote's Mask. Now this has the talent pack Instincts, and with that talent, you and all your allies are going to gain a crit hit chance and or crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. And I will go over a few more details in regard to how to figure out your percentages once we actually get through this breakdown. Moving on to the body armor, it's the 1 piece of Fenris. That's going to give us an extra 10% assault rifle damage bonus, and we're using the talent Unbreakable. When your armor is depleted, repair 95% of your armor, and the cooldown is 60 seconds. That will now take us to the holster, the knee pads, the gloves, and the backpack, which are the 4 pieces of the Negotiator's gear set. Running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% crit hit chance, 3 pieces 20% crit hit damage, 4 pieces hostile negotiations. And as you can see with that talent, critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds up to 3 marks total. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt. Whenever a marked enemy dies, gain 2% crit hit damage stacking up to 20 times or until the combat ends. And you will notice on every single piece of gear, I'm doing my best to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Last but not least, we have the backpack, which is the fourth and final piece of Negotiators. And because we're wearing that gear sets bag, we do have access to the talent critical measures. And that is going to increase the hostile negotiations damage to additional marked enemies from 60 to 112%. So you definitely want to use this bag. As far as the skills are concerned, I'm using the combination of the Banshee Pulse and the Crusader Shield. It's just one of my go-to combos in the game. And when we take a look at the numbers, I'm sitting at 49% crit hit chance. Remember, the max is 60 and 167.6 crit hit damage. Now remember, because we're using Coyote's Mask, we're also going to get a crit hit chance and or crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. So as a solo player, I want my crit hit chance numbers a little bit higher. But if I'm running in a group, remember, you can have all 3 of these bonuses running at the same time if other players are wearing the mask as well. So please make sure you take those percentages into consideration when you're putting this build together. And one thing I recommend doing just to get a visual idea of how far enemies are away from you, just go to the shooting range, hit that 15-meter mark, and decide, typically when you play, is that enemy closer, further away, and then go from there, my friends. Now, with all that being said, at this point, I'd like to highlight another version I strongly recommend you try out, and truth be told, as a solo player, this is the version I'm going to be running with probably 95% of the time. Now, as you can see, my primary weapon for this version is the Big Alejandro LMG. It has the talent cover shooter, where every bullet fired while in cover increases weapon damage by 1% up to 100%. The bonus is going to last for 15 seconds. Getting a kill with this weapon while in cover will reset the bonus, and the bonus damage is canceled by reloading, swapping weapons, or exiting combat. Now, the reason I mention that detail is because I know a lot of players out there, including myself, anytime there's a break in the action, we tend to reload the weapon. You do not want to do it with this one. You can see my body armor is one piece of Gruppo, and we're using the talent Obliterate, where critical hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. And you can also see I've switched my gloves to the Overdogs. These have the talent Weakest Link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. And for those of you out there who do not have the Overdogs, I recommend using Contractor's Gloves in its place. I can promise you that will still get the job done. Last but not least, I want to mention in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I'm using the version I just showed you, which is for Negotiators, the Overdogs gloves, and Gruppo on the chest. I also want to mention I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events. Finally, as far as my skills are concerned, for this build I'm going to be using the Reviver Hive as well as the Fixer Drone, just in case things get sideways. Hope this video helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
All clear. I repeat, the compound is all clear.
You there? Secure the area.
Go on ahead back up. The team from the campus is taking position inside the memorial.
Starting with the specialization, I'm using Gunner. Doing that for the typical reasons. You get that extra armor on kill, you get a reload speed increase, you also have access to the Banshee Pulse if you choose to use that. You will also get an extra rate of fire increase upon kill, you get some extra weapon handling when you're in cover for more than 1 second, and always remember, please make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree, that way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Even if you don't intend to switch weapons, just make sure the right ones are activated. Alright, so moving on to the primary weapon, you can see I'm using the Pestilence. This is one of my go-to weapons in the game. It has damage to targets out of cover, damage to armor, and this has the Talent Plague of the Outcast, where hits applied to buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. It stacks up to 50 times, and whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. As far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, it's totally up to you, but I do want to mention my Pestilence is at expertise level 30. It's one of those few weapons in the game where I decided, to actually spend the time and resources to level this thing up because I use it all the damn time. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 1 Cheska, 1 Petrov, 1 unit alloys, and 3 of the Lengmo brand set. Now we're running 3 because we are targeting that 3rd brand set bonus, which is 30% LMG damage. Next we have the body armor. It's the 2nd piece of Lengmo. And as you can see, we are using the Talent Obliterate, where critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Right below that, we have the holster. Now for me, I love using the Salvo holster because when you have this specific one equipped, you're getting an extra 10% rate of fire, and I just really like that. As a solo player, even if I'm running in a group, you do have a lot of different options. You could use a piece of Grupo, you could use another piece of, let's say, Petrov. Again, try out different variations, see which one you enjoy more. Continuing on to the knee pads, it's the 1 piece of Cheska, and you can see these are the named knee pads, the Turmoil, which you can farm for right now during the Cherry Blossom event. I'll talk about that in a moment. You can see these have the Talent Bewildered. When dealing weapon damage to an enemy, 50% of the damage dealt will be dealt to another enemy within 30 meters. Instead, when there are no enemies nearby, deal damage normally, and this does not apply to armor plates. Now in the meantime, if you do not have these, use Fox's Prairie knee pads, they will still get the job done. They handle differently, you're only going to be doing damage to one enemy. But that's something you can definitely use in this build and still be able to take out NPC pretty damn quick. Right after that we have the gloves. It is the 1 piece of Petrov, that is going to be the contractor's gloves. We're using that for 2 main reasons. First of all, we get that extra 10% LMG damage bonus, and we also have that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor. And last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. It is the 3rd and final piece of Lengmo. It's the named bag, the Backbone, with its Talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force, where killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, for me, I love using the Salvo holster because I like to get that extra rate of fire bonus, but a lot of you out there may want weapon handling instead. So what I recommend doing is switch your body armor to a piece of Petrov. That 2nd piece is going to give you an extra 15% weapon handling bonus. And then you're going to switch your holster to that 3rd piece of Lengmo, so you do get that extra 30% LMG damage bonus as well. Basically, it does not matter what pieces you have where, just make sure you do have 3 pieces of the Lengmo brand set equipped. Finally, I want to mention the fact that in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and a few final thoughts. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Give him an earpiece and get him on comms.
I will dry the fuck up if word gets back to the rest of the council that we lost the president.
We'll get him, ma'am. Fuckers aren't going anywhere but down.
And I've chosen that for the following reasons. You get some armor on kill, a reload speed increase, you have access to the Banshee Pulse, you get some extra rate of fire, some weapon handling when you're in cover, and always remember to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now my primary weapon for this build is the Pestilence. This has quickly become one of my favorite items in the game without a doubt. If you're looking for the different ways to farm boar exotics, I'm going to leave a link to a video I posted a few days back talking you through everything you need to know. Now, as you can see, this has the talent Plague of the Outcast. And with that talent, hits applied, a buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. It stacks up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. Now, when it comes to the secondary, you can use whatever weapon you want. And as far as the sidearm is concerned, if you have the quick step, I recommend using that because when that weapon is in your hand, you get that extra 20% movement speed bonus. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 1 Petrov, 1 Overlord, the Overdog's gloves, and 3 of the Lengmo brand set, which is what we're starting with. Now we're using 3, so we get that 3rd brand set bonus, which is that 30% LMG damage. Now I know at this very moment, a lot of you out there are saying, why not use the Tipping Scales gear set? Well, guess what? Spoiler alert, that is going to be the next build I show you in a moment. Next we have the body armor, my friends, 2nd piece of Lengmo, and you can see we are using the talent Obliterate, where critical hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Right after that, we have the holster. It is the 1 piece of Petrov. That's going to give us that extra 10% LMG damage bonus. And one thing I'd like to point out really quick is you will notice that a lot of these pieces are not fully optimized as yet, so there's definitely room for improvement. Next, we have the knee pads. It's the 1 piece of Overlord. We're using Fox's pair of knee pads for that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. Another great option is using the Turmoil knee pads, and thankfully you can farm for them right now during this Cherry Blossom event. Next we have the Overdog's gloves. I know a lot of people out there are still trying to get these things. I will leave a link to a farming video on how to get them in the description down below. You can see these have the talent weakest link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. If you don't have these gloves in the meantime, I recommend using Contractor's gloves. They will definitely get the job done. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. It is the 3rd and final piece of Lengmo. and we are using the Backbone Backpack with its talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds. That is going to stack up to 5 times. As far as the skills are concerned, I'm using the Banshee Pulse and the Reviver Hive, and when we take a look at the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 57% crit hit chance, remember the max is 60, and 116.4 crit hit damage. And once again, remember those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear you have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. That now takes us to the next build I'm going to highlight, and as you can see, we are running 4 tipping scales, the Overdog's gloves, and 1 piece of unit alloys. Starting with the mask is the first of 4 pieces of tipping scales. We're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. The 2 pieces 30% magazine size, 3 pieces 30% LMG damage, 4 pieces throttle control, where shooting build stacks to a max of 50, and each stack provides 0.5% weapon handling and 4% crit hit damage. Lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting, and no stacks are lost if an enemy is suppressed. Next we have the body armor. It's the 1 piece of unit alloys, and we're using the named body armor, the Equalizer, with its talent Perfect Obliterate. But having said that, I would much rather roll with the piece of Petrov on the chest, because that's going to give me an extra 10% LMG damage bonus, and I would use the regular talent Obliterate. But unfortunately, I can't show you that because that's the 1 piece of gear I accidentally deleted. So guess who has to farm for that shit all over again? This guy right here. Alright, right after that we have the holster and the knee pads, 2 more pieces of the tipping scales gear set. After that, once again, we have the Overdog's gloves, and as I said previously, if you don't have these, you could use Contractor's gloves in its place. Last but not least, we have the backpack, and because we're wearing a tipping scales bag, we have access to the talent Snowball, and that is going to increase the crit hit damage received per stack from 4 to 7. Definitely want to use that thing. Once again, I'm using the Reviver Hive and the Banshee Pulse. And as we make our way to the gameplay footage, I want to mention I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the reason I do that is to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.